Jojolion, the 8th part of JoJo's Bizarre Adventure, has really come a long way, spanning 65 chapters as of now and running for a little over 5 years. But a question that I get all the time that I think would be just great for a discussion is, when is it gonna be over? And will there even be a part 9? Hello everyone, this is the RPG Monger, and I just want to make this clear from the get-go that for the most part, this video is just gonna be speculation because everything I say here could be proven wrong as time goes on. So with that out of the way, let's talk Jojolion. As most of you should know by now, Jojolion, like the majority of Steel Ball Run, comes out on Ultra Jump, a monthly seinen magazine, meaning that unlike parts 1 through 6 and a bit of 7, we only get chapters monthly, making the parts way longer than previously. Just to make a simple comparison, Steel Ball Run lasted just about 7 years, with 95 chapters to its name. Needless to say, that's a pretty long manga. Though Jojolion, as I said, has 65 chapters to its name, 30 less than how Steel Ball Run ended up. With this in mind, we can now say that at the very least, if Jojolion ran as long as Steel Ball Run did, it won't be ending for another 2.5 years. So now that we have the base that it will end in 2019, working with that, we now need to take a look at the plot of Jojolion, and if it even shows signs of coming to a head. Oh, and be warned, I will have to discuss some minor to major spoilers to the story of Jojolion, so be warned. Alright, well, as you all very well know, Jojolion is basically an alternate Diamond is Unbreakable, with Steel Ball Run being the alternate counterpart to parts 1 through 3. But unlike SBR, at least I feel that Jojolion has been using the structure from its counterpart to a much greater extent, like with the fact that up until now, we still don't even have a main villain. Because keep in mind, we didn't even see Yoshikage Kira until at least halfway through part 4. And you may say, oh, well, that happened in other parts too, like part 5 for example with Diavolo, but that's where you'd be mistaken. Since where we at least knew that a main villain existed in part 5 since relatively early on in the manga. Anyways though, with that in mind, if Jojolion followed that ongoing trend, that would mean that the part would actually outdo SBR in length. In fact, in recent chapters, the characters that could become the main villain have been narrowing down, so in the scenario of that happening, based on how things have gone before, one of two things could very well happen. Either way, we have the situation with part 4 where we have side villains like Akira who at the time seem like they could be the main villain but end up being discarded. Or we could have the deal with Diavolo and Dio to a certain extent, where we've known about the character's existence throughout the entire part, but said character doesn't really do much until the climax and the finale of the part. Now I won't go too much into who I think the main villain will be, P.S. I think it's gonna be the beetle-loving bastard himself, because there are already videos out there right now that explain and discuss this topic way better than I ever could. But the main villains aside, what about the plot of part 8, and how much is unanswered as of now? Well, surprisingly enough, there is still quite a bit left that ever since the beginning of the part still has no explanation. But the real question is, could they fit it into the 30 hypothetical chapters before the end of part 8, under the assumption that it will be just as long as part 7? To that, it really does depend because right now, for example, we just got introduced to basically an alternate Superfly, and a way better one compared to the original in my opinion. But anyways, considering that, at least for 2 more chapters, we'll be having a fight and introduction of another character. So in reality, it all depends on how many more of these we'll be having before the part is over because who knows? Since we could be getting a whole new set of villains soon. Anything could happen. But back to the overarching plot. Right now, at least backstory-wise, there aren't any major ones left to be had, since Gappy has already had his major backstory revealed, along with a lot of other characters. So that's one thing that has been answered for the most part. But the most major thing, in my opinion, that will show that the part is nearing its end is an explanation of the weird bite marks, because while they haven't been too relevant recently, I do believe that whatever is behind those will then have to do with a quote-unquote curse that seems to be the motif for part 8 as a whole. So that's about all the speculation I can give for when part 8 will end, honestly, because after that point, I will really just be grasping for straws. But now, it's time to go into intense speculation. Whenever part 8 ends, whether it be in 2019 or 2021, would Araki make a part 9? Or would Jojolion serve as the final iteration in this bizarre adventure? Well, I for one believe that it's almost absolute that he would make a part 9, as it would slide in perfectly and round off the series in a wonderful manner. Now, hear me out. Parts 1 through 3 are clearly linked with the ongoing battle between the Joestars and the Stone Mask, right? Well, parts 4 through 6 are linked just as much with the saga of the Stand Arrow. with that solid of a trend, wouldn't it make sense that there would be a part 9 to wrap up JoJo as a trilogy of trilogies, as it were? Though still going with that logic, how are parts 7 and 8 linked? Well, it may be a bit of a stretch, but at least to me, it could be either of these two things. One being just the fact of them taking place in different universes, or it could be that the Holy Corpse seems to play integral roles in the two parts, albeit in part 8 to a lesser extent so far. But then there are some pretty large flaws to my logic here. There are instances where part 8 could very well end up the final part of JoJo. One thing could be, as part 7 seemed to parallel parts 1 through 3, part 8 could parallel parts 4 through 6, even though so far it's mostly just been paralleling 4. But then there's the much more depressing outcome. While yes, we all joke about how Araki never ages, depending on how long Jojolion really does go on for, by the time it's over, Araki may just not want or be able to take on another massive part. Though that would honestly be the worst case scenario, and I hope that will never be the case. So in the end, part 8's finale could really be closer or farther away than we expect, but I can at least firmly say that it will end around 2020, and either way, it will still be one hell of a ride. But wait, don't go just yet. I have a quick fun thing that I want to try out, as many have come up with their own renditions of what part 9 will be. How about we make one of our own? In the comment section, or tweeting at me with the hashtag Jojo9, type one sentence of a characteristic of the part, like who the main character will be, what his stand is, his name, the setting, and much more. In a couple days, I'll pick my personal favorites and mold them all together into our very own mess of a part 9. Anyways, if you enjoyed this video and want to see more like it, do subscribe, and today's cool thing of the day is the discussion video I showed previously by Super Kami Gaming. It's a pretty solid discussion, and it makes some seriously interesting points. But that being said, I'm the RPG Monger, and don't forget that each and every one of you are fantastic.